New York, LA, now Baltimore. This week's episode of Onward with Onrie is going to see me on the front lines of Baltimore Comic-Con alongside my stalwart companion, Kevin Hines, as we bust out our umbrella as dealers under the guise of Hunter Killer Collectibles and attempt to sell out of YI SOON SHIN at the same time. How will we fare? That's what you're all about to find out. For those of you who don't know Kevin, he's been on the front lines with me slinging YI since the beginning. He's the only person I trust to manage YI SOON SHIN at a convention outside of myself. Last year, when Avengers Infinity War came out, we decided to start putting our personal comics up for sale in order to maximize our potential at comic conventions. We've been at this as partners for about a year now, and we're still learning ways to integrate Hunter Killer Collectibles into our booth setups. We appeared at a couple small shows throughout the year, but Baltimore Comic-Con was where we decided to bust out our big guns. We spent all year saving up money and acquiring inventory in order to see what we were capable of doing. And after witnessing our performance at some of these smaller shows, we set our expectations quite high for Baltimore. Our strategy going into this show was simple. I would handle YI SOON SHIN, and Kevin would be the face of Hunter Killer. For our collectibles setup, we had 6 long boxes, some graphic novels, and all of our premium inventory. The good news was that we would have no problems filling up our table. In terms of a logical setup, we had a good idea of how to structure everything, or at least I thought we did. Well, let's see how this all plays out. Now, before I go on, I want you all to pay very close attention to what happens here, because Kevin and I are about to get thrown a whole ton of curveballs, and I want you all to witness how we knock them the hell out, one by one, as a team. In order for you to understand why our performance was an absolute victory, you must understand what Kevin and I, as well as everyone exhibiting at this show, was up against. Lots of pros love this show because this is their chance to meet up and have a good time. Kevin and I, on the other hand, as well as pretty much everyone who had to pay to get into the show, was here to make money. Unfortunately, for the second year in a row now, it looked like Baltimore Comic-Con was not performing at the level it has in previous years, and we had to figure out why quickly in order to adapt to the flow. Not doing so would have put us in a negative frame of mind, and that's when things can get ugly. At conventions, you want to minimize your emotions as much as possible, and that's a real hard thing to do. You have to have a strong front at all times. That's why it helps to have someone at your side that you can trust. Kevin is not only my partner, he's my brother. For some reason, it was decided that the Baltimore Marathon should take place on the biggest day of a 3-day show. The main street where the convention center was located was closed down completely in the morning, making parking and navigating a huge pain in the ass. So what are you left with? A bunch of attendees who are exhausted, confused, and in no mood to spend money. Some shows you do to maintain presence. Some shows will bring more money than others, and some shows are just a straight up risk. Given that we had done this show for so many years now, we knew what to expect, and given that Kevin is local to the Baltimore area, this show was going to produce a positive outcome no matter what, because our expenses were minimal. I paid for my flight using miles and stayed with Kevin. Therefore, our only real expenses were shipping inventory and the cost of our booth. The amount of rejection that Kevin and I experienced throughout the weekend was astronomical. We were put to the test selling YI SOON SHIN and dealing with a very difficult crowd on the dealer front. Lots of onlookers were beating us up on our prices because they wanted deals, and at some points, I felt like cracking. But Kevin kept me level-headed despite the fact that we were nowhere near where we expected or even hoped to be. Our dealer front was not performing to our expectations, and YI SOON SHIN was seeing the same numbers that it did the year prior, which was not great. In short, this show was not meeting our expectations. So does that define it as a failing show? Only if you're allowed to do so, which in our case is not an option. YI SOON SHIN is the book that cannot be defeated in battle, no matter the odds. So how could we overcome the adversity we faced? By adjusting our expectations. First and foremost, we had hopes that Hunter Killer would wreck it at Baltimore, but we also realized that this was our first real go at it as dealers. In the end, we still made a profit. Hunter Killer paid off the booth space it split with YI SOON SHIN, and Kevin and I managed to pay off a lot of the books we purchased for this show. All of the things we sold saw a profit. We didn't lose money on anything we sold. YI SOON SHIN absolutely ended up killing it. We sold out of all of our single issue inventory as well as the Warrior Defender trade. The Fallen Avenger graphic novel was struggling all weekend, but in the end we left the show with only 25 copies of it left. Everything else was gone. So YI SOON SHIN not only made a profit, it sold out of the majority of its inventory. That's a victory. That's not to say that everything ran perfect during this show. Kevin and I are still discussing ways to modify our setup so that YI SOON SHIN and Hunter Killer Collectibles can exist together in harmony and not get in each other's ways. It'll take some time, but I'm confident that we'll get there. After running the numbers for this show, I discovered something incredible. YI SOON SHIN is only 3,000 books away now from selling 20,000 books in a single year without any distribution from Diamond. I still have 4 conventions left to attend for the year, and we're now in the twilight of the 2019 season. Can I pull this insane feat off? We'll find out together on the next action-packed episode of Onward with Onrie, which will see me do battle at Big Easy Comic-Con in New Orleans, a show I've never done before, but am ready to dive into. Time for me to recover so that I can get back out there and shout my mighty battle cry, Onward to victory!